Since January 2025, US.Canada relations have been on a wild, unpredictable ride, one that's shaken everything from border towns to billion-dollar industries. What started as political theatre has turned into a full-blown economic standoff that's rewriting the rules of North American trade. Sweeping tariffs, fiery rhetoric, and the quiet but powerful Canadian backlash are draining billions from border economies, and now, with Mark Carney preparing to meet Donald Trump in Washington, the stakes couldn't be higher. Where we decode the real-world economics behind the headlines. And today, what's happening between the US and Canada isn't just another trade dispute, it's the biggest test of North America's economic engine since the original NAFTA showdown. So buckle up, because this story affects your car, your job, your wallet, and possibly, the future of North American manufacturing itself. It began with a familiar spark, tariffs. When President Trump reintroduced sweeping tariffs on Canadian metals, autos, and parts, many dismissed it as another round of political grandstanding. But this time, Ottawa didn't blink. Prime Minister Mark Carney didn't match Trump's volume, he matched his precision. Canada responded not with bluster, but with strategy, targeted economic pushback, calibrated messaging, and, quietly, a powerful grassroots boycott that's now costing American businesses billions. The numbers tell the story. In 2024, Canadians made around 20 million trips to the US, spending more than $20 billion, enough to support roughly 140,000 American jobs in tourism, retail, and hospitality. But in 2025, the script flipped. In response to tariffs, 51st state rhetoric, and the growing sense of US hostility, Canadians stayed home. By early summer, border states saw 30 to 34% declines in Canadian car visits and tourism flows. If you've ever driven through North Conway, New Hampshire, or Old Orchard Beach, Maine, you can see it yourself, empty hotel rooms, quiet boardwalks, and shops desperate for customers. Locals say it's not just the slow season, it's a ghost season. Duty-free stores report plunging sales. Restaurants that once survived on weekend cross-border traffic are relying on local daytrippers to fill the void. Even American exporters are feeling the pain. Sales of alcohol, snacks, and travel goods to Canada have cratered. A sustained 30% travel drop doesn't sound catastrophic on paper, but here's what it means in real terms. It's like erasing the entire tourism economy of a small US state overnight. And since bookings and tours are often planned months ahead, this year's cancellations become next year's layoffs. That's why state leaders are now in crisis mode. Be-in-venue campaigns are popping up across the border, friendly TV ads, social media promos, and deep travel discounts. The message: politics may roar, but Canadians are still welcome here. But the problem runs deeper than tourism. The tariffs that triggered this backlash are now bleeding into the very arteries of North America's auto industry. Detroit and Windsor, the twin cities that form the heart of carmaking on this continent, are now under pressure like never before. Let's break it down. A typical car part crosses the US-Canada border up to 8 times before the finished vehicle hits a showroom floor. That cross-border choreography works perfectly in a low-tariff environment. But when you slap 25% duties on Canadian goods, you don't just hurt one side, you jam the entire system. Michigan's Governor Gretchen Whitmer put it bluntly: tariffs on auto goods have surged into the tens of billions in just one season. Carmakers are scrambling, stockpiling parts, delaying factory expansions, trimming bonuses, and quietly warning dealerships to prepare for price hikes of up to $2,500 per vehicle. Suppliers face impossible choices. Do they eat the cost and risk collapse? Pass it on and alienate automakers? Or pause investments altogether? No option is painless, and every one ripples outward to workers, consumers, and communities. The irony is almost cruel. The tariffs designed to protect US jobs are now undermining them, because the North American auto industry isn't a set of competing nations. It's one integrated ecosystem. Canada supplies the aluminum, steel, and precision parts. The US returns engines, software, and electronics. Disrupt that flow, and the entire supply chain starts to crack. Sound familiar? It should. This is déjà vu from 2022, when the Ambassador Bridge blockade brought auto exports to a standstill. Back then, every hour of disruption cost millions. Today, tariffs are doing the same, but permanently. And with North America building its EV backbone, battery plants, and mineral supply chains, fragmentation now could hand China a strategic victory on a silver platter. Before we shift gears, do us a favor, hit that like button if you believe global politics shouldn't be waged at the expense of local workers. And if you're new here, subscribe so you don't miss our next deep dive on how these policies ripple through every corner of the economy. Now, let's talk about the damage control effort already underway. Because when politics goes wrong, diplomacy often has to get personal. State and local officials, especially from GOP-led regions, are quietly heading north to send one clear message: you're welcome here. Louisiana's Lieutenant Governor, Billy Nungesser, recently led a delegation to Toronto, Montreal, and Quebec City. Not to talk tariffs, but to save his state's tourism industry. He met with Canadian travel associations, festival organizers, and business leaders, urging them to keep coming south despite the noise in Washington. New England states are doing the same. Maine has ramped up its French language outreach. New Hampshire officials have crossed the border to repair ties ahead of the crucial ski season. Small-town shopkeepers say they've never seen such thin summer crowds, and while inflation plays a role, the absence of Canadian tourists stands out like a sore thumb. Canadian travel agents confirm it, their clients are holding off until Washington's tone changes. Immigration hassles, tariff uncertainty, and the 51st state rhetoric have created what one planner called a trust freeze. It's a telling moment. While state leaders are pleading for calm, Ottawa and Canadian consumers are reacting to something much bigger: federal policy risk. That's why everyone's attention now turns to one date, October 7th, when Prime Minister Mark Carney sits down with Donald Trump at the White House. That meeting isn't just a diplomatic appointment, it's the economic equivalent of a nuclear summit. Carney's mission is simple but monumental: ease tariffs on steel, aluminum, and autos, stabilize cross-border ties, and lay the groundwork for the first USMCA review. Ottawa has already made its first moves. It paused new retaliatory tariffs and shelved a controversial digital services tax, creating breathing room for negotiation. But the tension remains razor-sharp. Trump's repeated 51st state comments have infuriated Canadians, and Carney wants them off the table before any deal moves forward. Analysts expect that progress will come through narrow, sector-specific carve-outs, protecting the most integrated industries like auto parts, stamped metals, and battery inputs. Washington could frame it as safeguarding security supply chains. Ottawa could sell it as relief for manufacturers. Both leaders could walk away calling it a win, and North American industries could finally exhale. Because make no mistake, if this standoff escalates, nobody wins except the competition. Here's the bigger picture. Beneath all the noise about tariffs, boycotts, and rhetoric lies a far deeper question: will North America unite against its external rivals, or keep fracturing from within? China, Europe, and South Korea are pouring billions into EVs, batteries, and clean manufacturing. Meanwhile, the Great Lakes Ontario corridor, stretching from Detroit to Windsor to Toronto, has become a global powerhouse of EV investment. GM, Ford, Stellantis, Honda, and LG are all building the next generation of electric vehicles right here. Canada provides clean energy and critical minerals. The US brings R&D muscle, capital, and market scale. Mexico delivers flexibility and logistics. Break that triangle, and others will swoop in to fill the gap. Governor Whitmer said it best: say no to Canada, say yes to China. And that's exactly what's at stake here. Europe offers a warning: cheap imports flood markets, local plants shutter, and high-skilled jobs vanish. If the US and Canada can't find common ground, the same fate could hit North America's EV industry. Cathode plants from Windsor to Tennessee could stall. Battery supply chains could fragment. And instead of competing together, we'd be competing against each other. But there's still a chance to rewrite the ending. A North American compact, built on tariff relief, joint mineral sourcing, and coordinated battery production, could flip the script. Imagine a minerals to motors alliance: critical resources mined in Canada, processed domestically, assembled across borders, and sold globally under one unified standard. That's how you build real resilience, not through walls, but through integration. And here's the final lap, the verdict that could define this decade. The tariffs meant to shield American industry have ended up hurting its closest partner. The Canadian boycott is hammering tourism today, and the fractured auto supply chain threatens the future. The Carney-Trump meeting on October 7th isn't just another handshake, it's a pressure valve moment. Will both sides choose coordination and competitiveness, or continue down the road of retaliation and fragmentation? There's a narrow window for success: targeted tariff rollbacks, an EV cooperation pact, and a renewed tone of partnership. If they seize it, North America's automotive engine could roar into the electric future. But if not, expect higher car prices, slower factory lines, and a fractured continent handing victory to global rivals. So what do you think? Should Washington and Ottawa push for a minerals to motors alliance to outpace China? Or should Canada go its own way and double down on European and Asian partnerships? Drop your thoughts below, because this story isn't over. The next chapter will decide whether North America competes together or collapses apart. Before you go, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next deep dive into the USMCA review, and what it means for your next car, your next vacation, and your next paycheck. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next lap.